guys, I'm so happy to have you for this episode of the Enneagram and Marriage Pod. Today, I'm so grateful to be joined by Juliane Taylor Shore. She is helping us to feel safe, connected, and empowered in our relationships. She has done such a beautiful job in her book, Boundaries That Stick, that I was geeking out when I read it. And not only that, then when she said she would come on the pod, I was so happy because when I read a book, I enjoy it mentally, as probably many of you do. But when I can also enjoy it experientially and get a lot of tips for how to actually feel differently when I'm in a fearful situation, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's exactly what happened to me through this book. I needed it at the time. We were having a lot of extended family issues, and it was perfectly timed to and gifted by my beautiful friend Bina. Shout out to her who gave it to me in that moment, and no, couples therapist who just knew that I would need this. And so I'm so grateful to have Julianne on because I wanted to share it with you. And when I do have a guest on, it's because something in their life, even if we're different, has, of course, we're all going to be different, has truly touched my life. And sometimes it's sometimes I'm just learning with you, but this time it was an actual tangible learning. And I continue to use her book. In fact, I'll be completely putting my cards on the table when I say this, but I just used her book a little while ago too, today. So it was great to come into this practice, and I'm just grateful. So you're going to be in for such a treat. Make sure you check out the show notes if you're like, yes, the programs and books she talks about. Yes, I want them. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to remind you of is that the Enneasummit is really close. It's just a week away. Basically, it's March 5th through 7th. So it depends on when you're listening, but I'm assuming you're listening the week of February 25th. You might be listening in a different time frame. At any rate, it is here. And if you're past it, come back to it. This is a worthy stop because I'll tell you what, there's going to be 20 speakers. And if you're coming past this time, it won't be free, but you can get the all access pass. And I have both linked in the show notes. And I am so geeked out and excited because not only, of course, I'm thankful that I get to be one of those speakers on Enneagram and Love and Relationships, but also there's some very deep topics. There's going to be even grieving and healing from an unhealthy ex. So many of you probably carry that. I know I have carried that at times. Of course, how to love each type, and even dating, how each type acts while they're dating, how to take care of each type. I think this one is really going to be key, and that is how type sabotages intimacy and connection, and how boundaries can improve relationships. So many faces and names that you're probably familiar with, but definitely want to make sure you remember to check it out in the show notes and just sign up now so you can already start getting the emails to prep you. And also make sure that you get that all access pass if you, like I said, want to take your time and not have to rush. And you do want bonuses and such, because we have lots of those for you as well. So make sure you check all that out in the show notes, in addition to Julianne Taylor Shore's information. This is just one of those episodes where you get lots of goodies for you for long term. And there's all kinds of previews for the Enneasummit on the page as well. So we can all continue to do our work together, right? So let's welcome Dr. Julianne Taylor Shore now. Julianne, thank you so much for joining us for the Enneagram and Marriage podcast today.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
We have already been joking today. It's just, I love it. So thank
Yeah.
you. And I can't wait now to ask you your type. Tell us all about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I'm a 7 with an
Oh
8
my
wing.
gosh. No wonder. It's my type also.
Is it? Oh, that's brilliant. How fun.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, the kinetic energy, the flow that everyone's getting today, guys.
yeah. Yep.
This is why I vibed so much with her book. I was like, have to have her on the show. So grateful to my
Oh,
friend Bina, who also referred to you.
oh, loving that. She's amazing.
Yes, she
Yeah.
is. Oh, so tell us more about yourself too. I love
Yeah.
your work, so we would love to hear a little backstory.
Yeah, for sure. So, gosh, I'm a therapist, writer, teacher in Austin, Texas. I'm a neurobiology geek.
Ooh, love that.
That is my jam. And that happened actually because when I was starting out in this work, I actually came to therapy how a lot of therapists come to therapy, which is my life was in total crisis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense that you're like,
Y
I needed it, and I
I
needed
had
somebody to
to.
hold me, not just quick CBT sort of cognitive solution, but
Nope.
something with depth.
Yep, something with depth, and I wasn't even I got into an argument for the first 6 months with my therapist about whether or not feelings were important. My argument
Mhm.
was that they were not.
My goodness. That's very
That's my
relatable.
beginning point. That's my beginning point is my life is in chaos. Why aren't you telling me what to do to fix it? I thought that's why I was here. And he's like, but what are you feeling? And I'm like, I don't see why that matters.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
is a feeling, by the way?
yeah.
So and also, and after a 2-year journey with this person, this sweet therapist, amazing man, he really did help me save my life.
Oh,
I was in a really hard
oh,
situation, hard
oh
marriage, and
gosh.
got out,
Mm, yeah.
and I'm okay. And then one day I looked at him and I said, Patrick, how did you get your job? I think I might want it. And
Wow.
at that time I was an auto mechanic, turning
Ooh.
wrenches for a living. And I a different life. I had a totally different
Oh,
life.
how fascinating.
I know, right? And then I went into grad school and went, wait a second, you're asking me to work with the brain,
Mm,
but you're not telling me anything about a brain. And also, I still think feelings may be stupid. So I dove deep into neurobiology, found out I loved it.
mm,
It helped me make sense of why all this depth work works,
yeah,
why experiential work works,
yeah,
why stuff like the Enneagram really helps people. All this,
yeah.
the neurobiology led me
Mm,
to a
mm,
really wild experiential therapy path. And now I do sand tray
yeah.
and parts work and
Oh, love that.
yeah, I'm just in it to help people build deeper relationships with themselves and finding their own inner wisdom and finding their center and knowing that
Mhm.
there's an intrinsic healing path that everyone has.
Mm, yes.
And
How
I think my
helpful.
job as a therapist is to help people find it. And so when I run trainings, it's all about that and how to do experiential
Mm,
work well and stuff like that.
mhm.
And I interweave neurobiology in all I
Oh
do because
my
I want,
gosh.
right? Here's the
Yeah.
thing is I think we built a world where we're actually asked to work against our brains a lot.
Yes, I do too.
And I want to help people start working with their brain. And so if we can just understand a little bit about how the brain works, then it'll help us all be easier to handle the hard stuff. Because I
Mm.
all of this never makes life easy. I don't think there's a thing for that.
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna have to go through some hard stuff, but I'm gonna at least
Yeah.
give you the roadmap, and so fascinating that you took the mechanical turn here, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
most of us try to do this in a relationship with others when we're not healthily
Mm-hmm.
attached. We try to say, "Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like, I don't feel good, I'm not self-soothed, so therefore I need you to do that," and that's why I love the subtitle of your book, How Neurobiology Can Help You Rewire Your Brain to Feel Safe, Connected, and Empowered, so it is about connecting, but it's empowering you to feel safe and to self-soothe
Yeah.
too. So we're going to get into that today.
Let's do
Um,
it.
Fascinating. So let's hear a little bit about, you said there's 4 different types of boundaries. We've had 2 episodes on boundaries before. Your book is a different deep dive level, and that's why I was, my own life was changed using it, has changed my relationships in powerful and important ways that have allowed me
Mm-hmm.
to continue relating. So tell us about these 4 types of boundaries because most of us are only used to one type.
Right. So I think about them as 4 types and I break them into 2 basic categories. You've got
Okay.
your external boundaries and you've got internal boundaries.
Okay.
So, external boundary, typical type that you
Mm,
would think about. That's where you're going to say something to somebody else
mhm,
about maybe what's not okay for you and then do something to take care of yourself. That's
mm.
that external boundary space where I'm negotiating. Here are my boundaries inside of our relationship.
Yes. Okay.
And then there's these internal boundaries.
Mhm. Yeah.
One of them's the psychological boundary. That is the space between my mind and another mind so
Mm,
that I can keep my mind safe from yours,
mm,
protected, right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
I keep your mind safe from mine.
mm. Yeah.
where I can actually be more respectful and more connected, because I'm not trying to manipulate, may be a hard word, but
Yeah.
is it possible for us to have big difference and be connected through that difference? And I
Mm.
actually think that it is,
Yeah.
but we need to do some inner work
Mhm.
to let us reach through that difference and say, oh, wow, I could be connected to you even though you're feeling a hard thing. And I don't have to fix the hard thing for either
Mm.
one of us to be okay.
That's so good. Yes. Can you go to all
Right.
my marriage sessions with me?
Yay. And this is, I say all the time, look, if you do really good boundary work, you will be more connected to people.
Yeah, you will. Oh my
You
gosh, it brings
will.
people together. Okay,
Yes,
so I
boundary work is
interrupted
not
you.
about separating. Boundary work is about coming together and being in
Yes.
better
Oh,
connection with you and you. And
yes.
then I have the containing boundary. So that one is very much an internal boundary between you and yourself. So the
Mhm.
thing is that you feel and do pretty quickly. And a
Mm.
lot of people are doing things that feel like, that's not how I wanted to show up in that conversation. I feel like I let myself down with that
Mm.
choice I made. I'm a 7, the
Yeah.
enthusiast.
Yeah.
I love chocolate. I could eat an entire bag of Dove chocolate in one sitting.
Right.
Is that a good choice for my body?
Right.
No. But because I love life,
Yeah.
I could do that. That is a thing
Yeah.
my body would absolutely say yes to. It's really hard for me to
Yeah.
contain that. But with a
Yeah.
containing boundary, ooh, I can put a pause between that
Mm.
longing and the actual doing,
Mm.
where I
Mhm.
can greet myself with kindness,
Mm.
and I can put that pause between what I feel and what I do and double check my integrity and my
Yeah.
relational intentions with me and other people. And when I do that double check, I'm more likely then for the next move behaviorally to
Yeah.
match who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world. So I
Mm.
think of the containing boundary as a way to build self trust,
Yes. Oh, I
right?
love that.
And then you've got your physical boundary, and that one kind of rides the line between these two kinds.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more on the inside, like, do I even know what
Mm.
physical closeness is okay for me? Do
Mm.
I even know how I like to be touched?
Mm.
After some of us have been through really, really hard, traumatic even
Mhm.
situations
Yeah.
where maybe I have a history that tells me touch is dangerous in some way.
Yeah.
So some of the physical boundary work I offer is about repairing some of those old injuries
Mm.
and being with yourself really kindly and gently
Mm.
while you're with whatever experiences you've been through. So
Mm.
that's the internal part. And then there's an external part too, because I want to help people be able to communicate
Mhm.
about what feels good to them physically and what doesn't feel good to them physically.
Yeah, that's what I was
So I think of that one as like it rides the line between the two.
I was
It's
so
kind of both.
excited. I was like, "I'm gonna riff off of that," and I'm like, "Am I or am I not?" So you did. That's perfect.
Yes.
Because that one, then you have to communicate that out if it's with somebody else, and I love that.
Yeah.
So but this brings us to our next question
Yes.
anyway about, like, when we have a rupture, when we've tried to set the boundary, it didn't work, we have a relationship rupture, what do you recommend people do? Because we know that happens sometimes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, sometimes, well, I wonder how bad the rupture is,
Okay.
right? First of all, is
Mm.
is ooh, that was a hard conversation that we're later going to repair, or is this
Mhm.
like a ooh, I said what was okay and not okay for me, and I said I would need to do a thing, and then I did the thing, and you ghosted me, or you said no more, or we're not in a relationship, or sometimes
Mhm.
with lots of the folks I've worked with, actually not being in relationship is the health. They discover internally that that is the healthiest thing for them.
Mm. Yeah.
So when it is that level of rupture, that's
Yeah.
different. So let me take the first one first.
Yeah.
So when we're in more of that, yeah, there's a rupture, and also we're going to try to get through this.
Yeah.
I turn in, I want to make sure that I'm doing my good psychological boundary work.
Mm-hmm.
I might have part of that work is really getting what is about me and what isn't about me.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me actually give a real life example. Would that be okay?
Mm-hmm. Please.
My sweet daughter, when she's 10 now, but this happened when she was 7. She got a note from a friend
Mm.
that was really hard.
Yeah.
And she was having me help her read it. So I'm reading out loud with her, and I read this in real time, and
Yeah.
she hears it in real time.
Mm.
And this friend said, "Hey, I love being friends with you, but when you say this thing to me, I really hate it, and it makes me not want to be friends with you anymore."
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, that was
Wow.
huge.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh. I
Hard.
mean, she's like, of
Yeah.
course, in tears.
Yeah.
My friend doesn't like me anymore.
Yeah.
This is terrible. There's that rupture
Mm.
moment.
Yeah.
So I'm with her. First, we're just with the grief and the pain
Yeah.
because that hurt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm working it through with her, where I go through a process with her that with the grown-ups I call discernment, but with
Mm-hmm.
her I say, let's pause and figure some stuff out.
Mm-hmm. I love
And I
it.
say, okay, this friend said something that she doesn't like. Is that information about you? Or is that more information about your friend and what she does and doesn't like? So
Mm.
once we were through the big feeling and
Yeah.
her brain is a little bit more soothed,
Mm-hmm.
even at 7,
Yeah.
my sweet baby girl is going, wait a second,
Yeah.
that's not information about me. That's information about my friend.
Right.
Yeah. And you say the same thing to other friends.
Yeah.
Do they have a hard time with it?
Yeah.
Oh, no, none of my other friends,
Yeah.
it's not hard for them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So wait, let's check again. Is this information about you or is this information about your friend?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we do that discernment work so that I
Mm-hmm.
can really separate what information is mine and
Mm.
really information about me and
Yeah.
what is the information about the other person. Okay, now if it's in the other person, whoop, we're going to keep it over there,
Yeah.
and then we're going to do the other side of the psychological boundary
Mm.
work. Is it possible to listen with acceptance?
Mm.
Could we say it's actually okay for you to be who you are without me needing to change it to be okay?
Mm. Mm. That's
I can be
beautiful.
okay even if you're different than me,
Mm.
or you
Mm-hmm.
need something different, or this lands for you in a different way than it would for
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, okay, so the
Ooh,
first
I
thing I
love
would
that.
do if you're facing a rupture is hold on, go back over the scene and separate your mind from the other person's mind. Do some discernment. What's yours? What's not yours?
Yeah.
See if you can move into that. I think it's benevolent and respectful to bear
Yeah.
witness to what's happening in another person without needing to change it.
Right. You don't have to project shame onto them or within yourself.
Right, exactly. What if we're both okay having this difference?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Okay. So first I'm going to do my psychological boundary work. Then I'm going to do my containing boundary work. I might even need to do that away from the situation,
Yeah.
right? Where I
Mhm.
really ask myself, okay, if we go into repair this, then ooh, how do I want to show up? And
Mhm.
can I use compassion? I'm hyper big, huge on
Mhm.
self-compassion,
Yeah.
because self-compassion soothes the lower brain. So the
Mm.
lower brain
Yeah.
could be on fire when we have a big feeling.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
compassion is like the hose that puts it out.
Mm. Wow.
If you want to make a fire bigger, you want to throw more
Yeah.
fuel on that fire, harshness is a really good tool to put more
Right.
fuel on the fire.
Right. We don't want
So is
that.
ignoring your feelings or trying to shut
Yeah.
them down. You will make them bigger behind that fire door that you tried
Mm.
to put up,
Yeah.
right? So compassion, I'm huge on compassion. So we use
Yeah.
in the book I talk about developing a practice where you find a gesture
Mhm.
of compassion and you use that gesture, and there's a lot of brain reasons that I go into depth in the book
Yeah.
about why,
Mhm.
but we find that gesture and we say, oh, I gotcha.
Mhm.
And we remember, hey, wait a second, how do I want to show up?
Mhm.
What's my hope here, relational intention wise? What do I really want
Mm.
here? And I
Mhm.
do that prep work so that when I enter that conversation to try to repair, I can ask, hey, could we talk about what happened? Can I tell you what I'm hoping for?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then we can be together and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
If so, that's the rupture that probably could be helped.
Yeah.
Lots of self-soothing, lots of self-compassion, and then sometimes my containing boundary, I have to do a lot of work with myself around shutdown.
Mm.
So if I lack a pause between what I feel and what I do,
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, it's not that I'm going to explode, it's that I'm going to go away.
Mm. Yeah.
I'll leave myself, I'll leave my partner.
Yeah.
My sweet husband will feel abandoned, but not be able to figure out why because I'm 6 inches from him.
Yeah. He's like, "Where did you go? I see
Where'd
you,
you
but I
go?
don't feel you anymore."
Right, you're gone. You're right. I'm totally gone. Yeah, so I have to put my pause between what I feel and what I do, between the feeling and the shutdown.
Mhm.
And so sometimes for me, I have to remember um, courage, and I have to remember, ooh, I'm gonna risk opening my mouth and risk moving into vulnerability here to
Mm.
try to get that reconnection. For me, some of my boundary work is actually around opening up and saying more, whereas for other folks, sometimes it's around saying less or saying it in a different way,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So we really show up the way we want to.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're saying self-soothing is a big part. So for you, so you can stay. For others, it might be so that they can breathe or that they can be present with kindness. But each of us needs the self-soothing when we're that amped up, and that's so huge because I think that what you're also leading to is there's a greater risk of a deeper, longer, more permanent rupture if we
Yes,
don't do these repair pieces.
that's exactly right. So when
Mm.
you have that small rupture, do all this inner work so that you can move into repair.
Mm.
If you've had a bigger rupture where it's very, very clear that at this point, maybe there's a pause in the relationship, maybe the relationship is over. Oh gosh, I love this work and I'm sometimes surprised that
Mm.
people want to keep talking to me because I keep coming back to grief,
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. We need it.
you know? And
Yeah.
I think of grief. I have hard news because there's times where you're not going to avoid it.
Mm.
That saying yes to grief is the work.
Mhm.
Sometimes in small ways, like I'm not going to get what I was hoping for in this instance. And
Mm.
sometimes in huge ways, like this, I'm going to lose this relationship.
Mhm.
And so I really want us to embrace that that is a possibility. And
Mhm.
sometimes we have this impossible choice. Sometimes we only have hard roads.
Mhm.
There
Mhm.
have been times where it was either I abandon me
Mhm.
or I leave this, but I can't
Mhm.
do both. I
Right.
can't I can't both be with me and be in this.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that's when I have really encouraged this audience to do their personal work over their relationship work because I have
Mhm.
a mom who had schizophrenia and did abandon herself. And obviously
Mhm.
that was genetic as well. But
Yeah.
the point that she laid out very detailed was that she wasn't doing her work. I have all of her journals detailing it. And it's
Yeah.
just such a gift to be able to
Yeah.
say, like, what can we do so that we don't abandon ourselves in our work to set boundaries with others? And
Yes.
I think that we owe it to ourselves to do that. And there's
Mhm.
no shame if you've had mental health struggles or you've
Of course.
had genetic predispositions, but it's also with what I have today for every audience member here with
Mhm.
us and for us as well. When I have to set a boundary because I have to protect my mental health,
Mhm.
what can I do if it doesn't go my way and it ruptures so severely? You're saying sometimes you have to grieve and you have to
Yeah.
allow that to happen and you have to
Mhm.
lean on social support to get through and
Yeah.
maybe
And do your
medically. I'm sure you're,
Yep, absolutely, and do your compassion work to help
yeah,
yourself through and
yeah.
greet that grief with kindness. And
Mm,
I really think of grief as a process that's there to support us
yeah.
as we let go
Mm,
and face that a thing that was here is not here anymore.
oh my
And it
God.
could be, yeah, it could be something really small, like a hope for
Mhm.
getting this thing. And it could
Mhm.
be really, really big.
Mhm. But to face it is so key,
Hmm.
and to face the reality of what you do have
Hmm.
and what are all your armaments that you have, and so we
Yeah,
need to self-soothe, and nobody here, who has been living with I hope if you've been living with that sense of, like, "I'm not allowed to, I have to just love others," like, understand what you're saying is doing this work is foundational so that you can love others well.
that's right.
Yes!
Yeah, because
Oh,
otherwise you build resentment
oh my god.
and you burn out.
Yes.
The thing is that Brene Brown did some really good work on this a few
Mm,
years ago, where she was
mm,
really looking at these people who are just embody compassionate action and being. What
mm,
is it that they were really, really good at?
mm,
And she was thinking it was spirituality, but she's making all these guesses. Nope. You know what it was? Boundaries. They had
mm.
boundaries of steel.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
had boundaries of, like, they were just very clear with themselves about what
Mm.
was okay for them and what was not okay for them.
I
And I
yeah.
just think it's this space where the more I take care of me, the more I can show up for other people. I'm not asking anybody to create boundaries so that you don't show up for other people.
Yeah.
I'm asking us to create boundaries for a couple different reasons. One, it supports your brain to be in
Mm.
higher states of integration, which is great because it's more creative and flexible and nuanced ways of thinking. And
Yeah.
those states are only available to you when you feel safe enough.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Mhm.
Two, because I believe that you're worth it. And
Mm.
I think of boundaries as self-worth in action.
Mhm.
You are treating yourself like a person who is worthy of protection and respect and kindness
Mm.
and clarity. And three, it's going to help you be more connected to the world around you. You actually will show up more. You have more to give when you're supporting your brain and when you're treating yourself like a worthy
Oh,
person.
yes.
So I'm like, that's why I'm a boundary lady.
Yes, and I think that if you were just boundaries, like you said, there'd be this sense of like, okay, I just do it and it's selfish. But instead, like you're like, sometimes you have to grieve. This relationship is not going to be everything I thought it was going to be. It's going to
Hmm.
shift and it's going to look
Yeah.
different. And I'm going to have to lean in more sometimes. Or, I'm maybe this one over here doesn't make the
Hmm.
cut because I
Yeah.
wouldn't be mentally well. And I love
Hmm.
that you're teaching that to the next gen too, versus this
Hmm.
sense of like we have to do it all and be everything to everyone. And so, what about when we do need to make a request? I love how you differentiate between a complaint, a demand, and a request. Can you
Yeah.
tell us why it's so important when we're asking somebody for something and trying to set a boundary? Why that is? Because I'm going to use some of the language of John Gottman saying, don't criticize, complain. And I think that you're onto something when you say complaining is sort of an under approach. So maybe you can explain that to us.
Yeah, definitely. So I think of our world as built in this way of like, oh, I complain about it. Hope you pick up on that. When you don't do it, I demand that you change.
Yes. Yes.
Now, ooh, that's
Mm.
hard for a couple reasons. One is there's not much vulnerability when we complain. So I'm not
Mm.
actually opening up the part that's hurt.
That's a good point. Never heard anyone
Eek,
make that argument. That's a good point.
eek. And then if
Yeah.
I'm in demand, now I'm trying to control something that's out of my control because I'm trying to get you to do something different.
Mm.
Oops. And I would like to replace both of those. So complaining could
Mm.
change to direct request, and demand could change to boundary. So, what
Mm.
is a direct request? A
Yeah.
direct request is asking for someone's behavior to change,
Mm.
asking for something from someone else. Now, here's the hard news about a direct request
Mm.
is one, it's vulnerable. Sometimes you're going to get rejected. Sometimes people are going to tell you no.
Mm.
And two, you're going to out yourself about your needs, which can feel shaky for a lot of people. So I
Yeah.
get why we don't do it.
Yeah.
I'd rather complain about you just not being there for me than tell you, I
Yeah.
need you more and here's how you could show up. Would you be willing?
Yeah, you're right. There's a vulnerability piece there that
That's
humans
hard.
aren't always comfortable doing because we're like,
Well,
what if you reject me?
and the thing is, it's not really a direct request unless it's okay to say no. If
Mm,
it's not okay to say no, you weren't making it a direct request, you were making a demand.
mm, yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's huge.
Oof, oof. And
Huge.
people are gonna say no sometimes.
Right.
Ugh. And that's hard. And then we make up all the stories in our head about what that means about our life or our marriage or
Yeah.
our
Our
parenting
worth.
or whatever, or
Yeah.
our worth. Exactly. Ooh.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of this psychological boundary work and this
Mm,
containing boundary work, that inner boundary work I've been talking about, to
yeah.
make it a little bit more safe to
Mm,
make those direct requests. Because now when I ask my husband for something, let's say I ask, his name's Adam, let's say hey, Adam, hun, is there any way we could have a date night soon? I have free time on Friday. I just feel so far away. I can't do that this week.
yeah.
Do you know how overworked I am?
Yeah.
That's my answer. Whoa!
Yeah.
Hopefully, I have a psychological boundary in place and
Yeah.
I can do my discernment very quickly and go, hey, what if that was about me?
Yeah. Right.
Actually, none of it.
Yeah. Wow.
If my psychological boundary is in place and I can accept his level of stress, I don't have to change him.
Hmm.
Oh, I totally get it, sweetie. You are really stressed out.
Yeah.
Work has been really hard.
Feel like I can hear that.
I can hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he may, because I greeted that stress kindly,
Mm,
may even turn around. He often will do something like this, is if I can show up in that moment.
mhm, mhm.
Full disclosure, I do not always do it great,
Yeah.
but let's say I did in this moment do it great. He might say, but you're right, we haven't had a date night in a really long time. Yeah, it's been
Mm,
like 6 weeks.
yeah.
Well, okay, this week doesn't work. When can it work? And
Yeah.
now we're in a negotiation around solving the thing,
Mm,
right? So
mm,
the first step when I think about getting more of what you want, I think about, hey, take care of yourself so that it can feel safer. Not safe, it
mm.
won't ever feel safe. Vulnerability is always going to be scary. I have no way around that.
Yeah.
If you all find it, please call me and tell me about it because I have not found that.
Uh-huh.
Vulnerability is always scary, but we can make it a little bit more protected with some of this inner boundary work.
Yeah.
And so we're going to start there. And then if it turns out that maybe I've asked for something to change and it doesn't, and it doesn't, and it doesn't, and I've tried a few times,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to set a boundary. And a boundary does not ask for anyone else's behavior to change.
Yeah.
A boundary asks for your behavior to change.
Mm, yeah.
So,
Oh,
oh,
beautiful. And when we are finishing up our time here today, I feel
mm-hmm,
like the only piece that some of us might be left with is,
mm-hmm.
can we walk through? We're going to read your words. I hope everyone will get your book. But
Oh,
may you just walk us through for a moment? Would that be okay? Some
uh-huh.
way to self-soothe if we do come away with just a little discomfort from vulnerability or our partner is
Mm-hmm.
harsh? Is there something we could do and
Absolutely.
show? Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I want you to do is just notice if there's some uh it could be a movement or like a little shift in your body if you are being kind towards someone else who you love who's in pain.
Mm,
What does that look like, feel like in your body? And most people find that there's a little bit of a gesture or a movement that means, oh, sweetie. It means that, oh, you're not alone. Oh, I'm so sorry. This is hard.
mhm.
And for me, oh, I have a natural hand to my heart sort of space when my kiddo's in pain. That's who I was thinking about right now.
Yeah.
And for other people, it's been the smallest little like fingers rubbing together. Or I was with a musician not long ago who moved their fingers like they would on a guitar,
Oh,
right? That's the love. That's what love means to them. That's what
oh,
kindness means to them. It could be anything. I have somebody who does this little shrug thing because it feels like hugging herself.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
So be really creative, really listen to your body and just see, oh, show me a gesture that knows this feeling.
Yeah. Hmm. I
Mm.
just got really slowed down, and I imagined my eyes getting big, thinking about my kid too, my son, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I know what I do. I get soft. I stop moving so fast. I
Yeah.
become present. My eyes get bigger with compassion and care, like I'm
Yeah.
taking it all in."
Oh,
And
yeah.
I can do that for myself too.
You
We
can
can do
totally
whatever
do
it is
that.
for ourselves too.
And just now your hands even went like this when you said, "I'm taking it
Yes,
all in." And so
yes, my
now
heart is
notice
open.
that's right. And so now notice, you can even test it out right now. So
Mm,
notice in the last couple weeks if you've had a hard moment where
mm,
you felt a feeling that was really tough.
mhm.
And then imagine those wider eyes, that slowing down, that open hand, that
Yeah,
open heart, and see
yeah.
if you can bring that gesture to that moment, to that version of you from before,
Mm,
just
mm.
like you would to a really good friend. And then just check out,
Mm.
oh, how does that feel inside?
It feels
And
really good.
yeah, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, actually, that's a little more peaceful or soothing. For
Mhm,
some of us, I just want to give a little shout out to folks who maybe come from really hard spaces. For some of us, ooh, it feels scary. It feels a little nervous to be
mm,
bringing that much kindness. That's
mm.
okay. Just bring it softly and only take in even 1% is
Yeah.
just fine. You
Mm,
don't have to drink all of the compassion in at once. Be
mm,
really, your system has so much wisdom about
mm,
how much is right to take in. So if you
mhm,
want to take it all in and that's right for you, great. And if you want to take in just 1% and that's all that's right for you right now, trust you. And that's okay
mm,
too.
mm. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I am so grateful. I know everyone here is too. And the details and the experiential practices inside of your book are life giving. And I do
Oh,
feel your kinetic, beautiful seven inside of the pages too. So I just want to affirm like, you really came through in this and it was movable for me. I was like, I'm working, I'm doing, and my heart is opening. So thank you for making this practice for us. Where can everybody find you and your beautiful book?
oh my gosh. This is so awesome. I love that I'm here. How can you find me? The book is called Setting Boundaries That Stick. My name is Juliane Taylor Shore, and you can find me at thatname.com. So www.julianetaylorshore.com.
Mhm.
I run boundaries workshops that are based on the book. So
Mm.
you can come and work with me, and they're tiny. They're
Oh,
actually limited to 8 people.
oh, that's good.
So it's actually depth work over 20 hours. And yeah, you can find my book anywhere. It's on everywhere that you love to buy books. If you are an independent bookstore, most of them around the country, especially the big ones, Powell's Book People here in Austin, Texas, which is where I am, they have it. And of course, on all
Mhm.
your big sellers have it as well. And yeah, I just love to
Awesome.
connect with you all. And I am so grateful to you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, my
This is
joy.
this has just been so fun and so good to connect with you and the folks who listen, and I'm just
Yeah,
delighted.
thank
Yay.
you. Such a gift to us. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Julianne.
You too. Bye.
Oh my gosh, I am so glad we got to talk to Julianne. Guys, I was laughing so hard when I discovered she was a seven. That made me giggle because I realized that I loved her mechanics and practicality, and yet her desire to keep us open handed with our hearts, too. Oh my goodness, in the experiential body. Guys, she hit every zone with such wisdom. And I hope that if you felt that taste of learning, that you'll take one thing from today and just start applying it. And if you need more, get the book that I got, or make sure that you sign up for her classes because she has such a gift for helping us to feel safe and empowered. And I know that's what you want, and connected. And then also don't forget the Enneasummit in the show notes so that you can continue to build and to learn. And also, let's be honest, build up that Enneagram community. It took a hit about a year ago. So let's make sure that we continue to spread the wonderful lessons and not keep it to ourselves if we're really changed by these awarenesses. It just brings us into awareness in a bit more of a nuanced way. And when we can offer that to those in our circles, it really helps them too. So don't keep it to yourself. Share the summit. Hopefully, you can attend. And also, checking out Julianne's book would be such a gift to you too. So, all of it in the show notes. I will talk to you on Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye bye.